Alrighty, next up is singletons. Singletons are very straightforward. The idea is we want a class, only one of them can exist. Usually we want them to exist forever. That's pretty much it. They're very, very handy. They're not always the best, and you should be careful using them, but they're very, very handy. So how we do this is we create a new monobehavior script, and we can call it, well, there's two ways to do this. Let's do the first way first. So I'm gonna make a script that's called UI manager or UI controller. This is going to piggyback off the last thing that we did, which is the mediator pattern. But obviously you don't need to have followed the last video for this to work. So to open it up, let's start by just deleting both of these and adding an awake function. I want to add awake because again, we're referring to ourselves. Okay, let's add it into our manager subfolder. And then let us create our first variable. So the idea behind Singleton is we have a public static instance. See, it just immediately knows where we create our instance. And then we can say get private set. By doing this, we're saying that no one can change us except for ourselves, but anyone can access us. Next, we need to check if the instance exists and the instance is not this. If the instance exists and it's not this, then we must destroy the object that currently exists and return. Because, well, we should not exist if there is already an instance. And then finally we can continue whatever logic we need to do. So we can say don't destroy on load if we want to stay alive and keep ourselves alive. That is it. That is the whole thing. That is Singleton. Now what we can do to try this is if I go into player, then I can ask my player to say UI controller instance and then ask it to do something. So UI controller instance dot and then transform even because it's a monobehavior position and set it equal to something stupid. It does not matter. It's arbitrary, right? That is Singleton. Very powerful. Again, it means you can only have one of these things. That is how this works. But it's very exposed, right? Anywhere can access this, and it's very easy to like fall into traps. And if you're trying to make a networked game, this can very easily just give you a horrible, horrible headache. Because, okay, for instance, let's say we want to make a coin collection system. We want to keep track of all the coins that have been collected. However, they're different between players, of course. That's how multiplayer works. If you track it in a singleton, no, it's now shared. All the players will have the same amount because there's only one instance. You can make a net function and add complexity to it to make it work properly, but it's just a generally bad idea to pawn all of your responsibilities onto a singleton. Sometimes there are cases and someone's going to be like, well, actually, you could make a singleton coin collector if you did it like... Just avoid it. Avoid it until you absolutely need it. That is the general consensus for using singletons. Especially because when you mark something as static, it is always alive. Always. So, you know, let's just avoid it. So this is way one of creating a singleton, and it's just very quick and easy. The second way of creating a singleton is by first creating a helper class. So I'm going to create a new folder called utility. And generally, I'll carry my utility folder with me wherever I go to all of my projects, utility, and there's quite a few things in here. And if you attend the in-class stuff, then I will also show you some tricks, lots of little magic tricks, but in our utility folder, file, let's create a singleton script. Actually, wait, does Unity have their own implementation? I can't remember. Oh. No, that's something else. Okay. Visual scripting bad. Okay, so let's open our script. And then the idea is really straightforward. We have our public class singleton over here, where we can say we want a singleton, and we can have it extend a class of T, where behavior where T is not a singleton of type T, but rather a singleton of a component. Then what we can do is we can access our component T instance, okay, and then we can make our getter and setter like we did before. So we're going to say get and set. But I guess we probably don't want our set to be private because instead we want to bind it in awake. So let's just do a get and then in awake. Let's bind it. It's going to be exactly the same thing. So if I head back over to Oh, I deleted it in here. So let's just take this from here and let's move it into here. It is the exact same thing. We're going to make one small change over here when we check if the instance is not ours. So, sorry, over here, we're going to bind our instance to this as a t. Okay, so we're going to remember that we are the instance. Then over here, when we do our get, we need to check, firstly, do we exist? Whoops. If our instance exists, then, and then we're going to ask if our instance find object of type t, and then it chose the wrong one for some reason, so I don't know why it did that, but you really want to do it like this. Find object of type t. Oh. Find object of type is depreciated. That's also what I'm saying. You're not supposed to do it this way. Pretty much what I'm getting from this is the way that I've been doing things is perfectly fine. And the way that the internet is telling me to do it, or what I'm supposed to be teaching, rather, is not 100% accurate. And I guess there's a good reason why it has not stuck in my mind about how, in quotes, you're supposed to do it. It's because this is obsolete. Find object of type is very bad. You're iterating through literally every object in your game and then every component just to find one little thing. Now in here, what we're supposed to do is we're supposed to have another if check to check if our instance, again, is null, if it does not exist, which at this point should actually be like this, it's cheaper. And then we're going to say that our game object is a new game object, and let's bind it with our name, and then let's bind our instance to be our component. So like clearly this is a thing that has been done a lot in the past, like it's a documented thing, I suppose. But why would we use it if every single time you search for your instance, you're literally iterating through what could be hundreds of objects? Meanwhile, on this one, it's instant. We just know the location of our memory. Anyways, to finish using this, what you would do is you'd mark this as a singleton of type monobehavior. And then from here, we can now access it the exact same way. So in player, I can say UI controller dot instance dot, and then whatever I need it to do. So I can access the transform again and continue, just like we did before. The just difference is now it's declared as a singleton of type monobehavior.